All right, this is the finished lantern, and it's went through many processes. I've got a CNC machine, and I upped the number of kits that I could get to four, and these are all my. It's fun whenever you just get excited about doing some woodworking. I was reviewing some panel glue ups on the YouTube and looking at what people do for gluing up panels and the different clamping methods and how they go about doing it. And it kind of occurred to me that a lot of people don't really realize the value of having the joiner right next to the table saw. And a few years back, I mounted this up to my table saw with the oak stretchers and brought the joiner out to where I can get just about 6 inches of joiner right at the edge of the table saw there. But what's neat about this is the half the time you're straight lining and half the time you're joining, and you want your surfaces good for glue ups and straight boards, so you're just going back and forth all the time between the two. And I found that true when I was gluing these panels up yesterday. I'm making 16 lanterns, and I'm going to put them in the CNC machine here in a little bit, and it'll make each one of these panels will make 4 lanterns. But taking that cedar and just cleaning it up to where the knots were clean and solid. I made 16 last year, and I wasn't as particular about putting the cedar together, and I had to end up making some extra parts. So I thought, well, this time I'll try and clean it up and make a neater glue up with the boards. So this is nice because these boards will go down to a bunch of little pieces, and I'm not having to service them or anything. They're pretty close as far as the joints go, and a little bit of sanding, and you just won't be able to see hardly any of that. But I was looking at coals and things like that. Then back to the table saw, having the joiner there handy. With the cedar, there's just so much junk involved in it that if you're going to make panels, you're always faced with they're regular cedar. The boards aren't that big, and there's knots in them, and there's some rot that shows up in some of the sapwoods, and so you want to cut all that stuff out and put the good parts together. Sometimes I'll leave a little small knots and things like that in it, of course, to give it a little character. But for the biggest part, you want your glue up to be good and solid. So that's kind of what we did. But the joiner and the table saw combination together, you're joining, and then you look at, I need to take off that part. So you run it back over the table saw, and I was able to use the two tools together, pulled out here. Of course, everything's on wheels, and pull it out here and hook the dust collection up to it and run back and forth between the two. And the wood pretty much stays on the saw, so having that advantage of it being just right there, you can step over here, join it, then cut it, and then join it, off and on. So most of the time I was repeating processes, but sometimes when you're cutting out the knots and the splits and the stuff, especially with the cedar, having the ability to keep all your wood right there and handy is pretty nice. So a little portable joiner, I think Craftsman has one that's just like it. I was watching a review, guy was using it, and I think it's the same model. And I've been using that thing for 6-8 years now. And, the thing works great. So that's plaques, different things, and even for like joining, some of these 4-foot long boards, I've been resawing a lot of cedar and oak and walnut and different stuff. This is all lumber that's come from trees, and I've got a whole bunch more out in the shed that's drying, about 5 times this amount, 6 times this amount, and it hasn't been surfaced. But anyway, so even boards this long, they're almost 4 feet long, and they still do fine on that little joiner over there. I think it's a 30-inch joiner. So anyway, that's kind of what we're doing today, and I just thought I'd give you a heads up. And here, okay, I just got through finished lubing and cleaning the CNC shark, And basically ran some silicone over all of the rails, lubed the bearings in the side here, and then these bearings here at the top, and then clean the rails on the bottom. And I do that quite often. Says every 30 hours or so, but anytime you hear any noise, just shoot a little lube on there and it'll clean it up. So anyway, I'm getting ready to cut these lanterns, and I've got 4 panels that I've glued up with Cedar. And this is the nice thing about a box that you can take off, CNC box. Whenever you're working on these things, you can just get the thing totally out of the problem, and so you can get total access around the machine. And that goes as well as for putting screws in or clamps or anything. You got 360 degree access to the machine. So these 2 foot by 2 foot panels, just about my machine would do 25 by 25. So I've got a half inch to spare on that, and we're going to put that in the machine and get her going here. So let's do this. All right, I ran screws to the sides. This piece is about 1 inch bigger than what I actually needed, so I've run pieces through the sides down there in the front. So I've got 4 screws holding it. A little later on here, I'll put some screws down through the face back in this section, but right now this is good to go, and we're getting ready to fire this thing up. All right, that was from the back side there. Now I'm back at the front, and here are some screws here, and I've got one over here as well. And it's pretty much laid down flat. I'm not V-grooving anything here. I'm just going to, I've got the V-bit groove bit loaded, but I'll just do that for coming up with a point. And then we'll run this thing on a high pattern just to make sure that my wood is in the right direction, and we'll see what goes on. See you, bye. All right, I've got a 1/4 inch compression bit loaded up. It's got the down cut on the, or the up cut on the very bottom, and then down cut on the top. So see how kind of an edge will get on that. Looks like I had a little piece of grease come down on top of my board. Let me get that. All right, I just started that cutting out the first of 60 lanterns. I've got the 4 pieces glued up, ready to go. All I've got to do is let this run its course. It'll cut on here with a 1/4 inch mill, then it'll go down to a 1/8 inch mill, and then it'll go down to a chamfer bit, and after we're done doing that, they'll be ready to sand. So the whole process probably takes right at hour and a half to cut 4 of these out. So I'm going to go and get some oak for some canteens, and we'll let that get going. So there we go. It's nice to have somebody in the shop working, doing their part while I'm doing other things. So the person's sitting, so I'm just kind of looking at it, making sure that it is cutting through. And these are the cut through pockets. See how they're doing. So it's looking pretty good from what I can see here. Alright, go to the next one, and away they go. Alright, this is a maple I harvested off of James' house. And he had a big tree that he took down, so I took some logs from it. Over in the corner, some red oak logs, white oak logs. So they were pretty spalted. And I think I have a little walnut down at the bottom of this stack. And I've got some walnut over there drying out. Cut that this year, and so there's 3 stacks of that drying out. So we'll be getting in some walnut fabrication for too long. Get a few more maple boards for some canteens. Alright. Wow, the CNC machines have been in there. Went down to the shed, pulled out some cedar that's dried. And some maple boards that were dried. I cut this one from a tree in a co-worker's yard. And it's been drying for about 1.5 years. And I'll basically resaw it, glue it back together, and cut it straight plane, and we'll get it going. We're going to make some canteens out of that maple. And there we go. I've got to reorganize my bin because I'm getting mixed and matched. So there we go. And just checking on the CNC. It's been there doing its thing. Setting the bottoms for the lanterns now. Here's all the holes. And the compression bit does a nice job. It cuts, it holds the tips, the cutting stuff up so that we don't burn so much. And it's getting rid. It's setting the vertical post hold for that, and it's doing a pretty good job. And it's right now at 50% of the job, 51%. We've been running 17 minutes, or 34 minutes. It'll be about done with that part of it. All right, well, the CNC's cutting away. You can see the cup and these maple boards. They came out nice and wide, almost 10 inches, and they're beautiful. But almost every one of them's got a little bit of a cupping in it, so I'm going to cut them down to about 3.5 inches or so, and then put them back together. That way, I'll have more wood under this. Okay, that milling operation took 32 minutes, 56 seconds, so about 33 minutes to do that, and that's a bunch of holes. So that's all your lantern bases and tops, and then the side posts for that, and they all look like they came out pretty good. And let's load up. Alright, I loaded up the V-bit for the 90 grit, 1/4-inch shank, and it's going around and it's tampering the outside edges and the holes that need a little tampering. Anything where there's finger wear, like for example this one right here, the big hole where you can get your fingers in, I'm just cutting the edge off of that. And then the other one where there's a valve that goes down in through there. The big round ones I'm not, so it'll go around there and clean that up. It's 35% done, and a minute 34 seconds. So we'll go to planing some wood and see what. Alright, we're going to plane them maple boards, and I've got them cut down to 3 to 4 inches wide. Basically just took the bow out, cut it out, so the planer will do a better job of planing, won't use up so much material. This is just a dumpster. It's a 65-gallon dumpster. It's got a clamp down on the top of it, and then a hose. This planer's got an impeller that shoots the dust out, so it doesn't need a dust collection system. And when I get done, that right there will be about half full with chips. Right now it's empty, and so we'll plane them down to 3/4. Nice thing about the wall is it's got these 3/4 inch, half-inch, 1/4-inch, and they're money on the spot. I mean, they're nice. I can take all the boards down to 3/4. Don't even have to check them. I do like to put a board in here to get rid of snipe. You bring it out here a little bit, but it's not really a problem right now. I did hit a knot or something, and one of my planer blades is dull, but I've used this a bunch, so we'll just see what we get out of it. I'm going to run her up, fire up some. All right, there they are with a nice chamfer set on them, and that's chamfered there as well. And now I'm going to do the holes, and then we'll be ready to cut them out. Machining in there. We need to cut a 1x10 by 24 out of this material, and that'll be our canteen, so I'll make up enough for some canteens out of that. And first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and square the ends and join them, and there we go. Alright, we pulled that out of there. I had one piece go awry, and that caused my Z to get out of sync, so I've learned that I'm gonna have to put another screw over there on that side so I can keep them from not coming apart. So anyway, I got 4 good lanterns out of it, 4.5 anyway, or 3.5. So there we go. Alright, here is the mess created by 4 lanterns. CNC, it's basically all around, but as you can see, nothing really on the floor. So I'm going to vacuum this up with the shop vac and then put a new piece in. Alright, at the very last of it, I lost my Z when that came unscrewed back in there and went through a little sapwood. And this came up and it got cattywampus into the bit, and you can see where it got in there, and it grabbed the Z and held the Z and messed up the Z. And my other 3 pieces that were left, they're salvageable. All I've got to do is just cut them out on the table saw and get the pieces straight out of them. So that's really nothing there. So that was no great loss. I did lose one of my end pieces. Took a big old knob out of it. So when you lose your Z, you got to be watching this stuff. It's a good reason why you don't leave these things unattended. And I had shut it down with the lunch because I was afraid of something like this. And anyway, so picked it back up, and I'm gonna load the other one up in here and start cutting on it, and then I'll get around to the cut some more of them and getting back to. All right, this one I put in a few more screws. Got these lines on my board, and then also the same in the back there. And we're gonna get this thing started again. I've got that set up. Let's zero out the old board there and hit her plate, put her in the circuit, and we're ready to roll. Well, probably about close to 30 gallons of sawdust in there. It's up to this point here, so that's a 65-gallon container. So we got 30 gallons out of those boards. And alright, we've done the drills, we've done the camper. Now we're headed off doing the grooves for the glass and the cutout. And I put a few more screws in it. See what I can get out of it. This will take it a while, so I'm gonna probably start doing some glue up here and see what we get come out on the canteen board. Okay, here's my canteen boards. I got 5 sets of canteen boards. These are they're supposed to be 3/4 inch by 9.5 by 2 feet. So they're 2 feet. Probably going to be a little bit closer to 12 or 13 inches. And then I'll recycle the stuff off of them when I get them glued together. A few of the boards have kind of bad spots, so I'll put them on my cold canteen. And I took the scraps from them boards and straight lined them and planed them. So they're serviced on 4 sides, so they're just sitting there. I think I'll probably turn them into some black material and see what comes out of that. Alright, those are 3 glue ups of the maple, and I cut them up 24. That's enough for 2.5 canteens. So we'll go that way with the maple, and then haven't made one out of maple, so we'll see how that goes. Pretty productive day out in the shop. Got that all milled up. I think I spent about 5 hours the day before prepping all that wood, getting it ready. And this is my first batch of the cedar that's coming out of it. I've got another batch that's just about to come out. So that'll be 8 lanterns that are come out, minus half of one bottom, which is an easy cut. But going through there, cutting them out now. And there it is. I don't have the cutout perfected on those right now. I think I'd be better off to probably run a screw down through those where them dowels are, them dowel holes are. And after it cuts that first set of lines. But I don't know. We'll see how we come out on this end right here. Most of the time they just kind of flop a little bit. There's tabs on it, but they just don't stay sometimes. So, and then I'm doing a lot with a 1/8 inch bit. So, keep cutting loose and around there, so you can kind of see where I'm at with that. And that's the last cut on it. So then it goes up and goes over and does the next one. So far, it's been pretty good. I did lose one on the last batch, so we'll see what we do with that. I went ahead and put some screws down in the very drill through holes at the very end in the middle. It seems to get real flaky in there and starts going cattywampus. So about every other one or every three, I put a screw down on that side over there. So I'll have to remind myself to do that, see how that goes. I think it'll be fine. But I sure wouldn't want to do that before I drill them, of course. There's tabs in that, but it gets so flimsy in there after everything's cut that it doesn't do a very good job of holding them all together. Alright, that one took an hour to do. That's cutting out all the parts and cutting the glasses out. So that's not too bad. Alright, to get these to come out, after I saw the grooves, or cut the grooves out, before it goes to cutting that all out, it's all in one operation. Before it goes to cutting it out, it'll start back in there. When it gets up there, I'll just tell it to pause, and then I come in and I put a screw in about every third hole here. And of course, I'm doing this off of these little marks right here, and of course then right there. But this held it real good. Nothing got up, moved around. So, but anyway, got every third hole there, and we're in good shape. All right, look at the mess. And the nice thing about it, 99.9% of it stays in the box. So all that mess is in the box, and I'm going to shop vac that out right now and give you a little bit of that. I've got all this tied together on a little key fob. Turn on the shop vac, and that's my shop vac silencer. There's a dust deputy over in the corner, and it's of course hooked up to the pool hose. So there's that, and it's an easy clean. And basically, you just go over it, and when I'm doing this amount of cleanup, that'll fill up that bucket after about every second panel. So I just emptied that bucket here before I got to this point here. So I'll just clean that out and then put the other piece up in there, and away we'll go. So it's just a matter of cleaning, running the vacuum down through there and cleaning that up. And you can get to where you do a lot of cleanup on it, or just a little bit, or you put the other piece in there. I generally like to clean up for the biggest part of it, and but after a couple minutes, it's clean. And then I'll go do the other side of it, and it's ready to go. You don't have to do this, but hey, it doesn't hurt. I'm gonna go ahead and take all these parts out of there now, and turn off the shop vac. Lift that out of there. Those pieces, these pieces here. Ooh, looks like I might have got into a throw a little piece of that somewhere in there. Must have been right up in there where it threw it out. So. And this piece here is whenever you go looking at it. This one here, I had quite a bit of wobble in it. And looks like I lost my Z shortly in here. So I'm gonna have to do some work with the bandsaw to clean these up. This piece was, but I lost my Z axis, probably right down in here. Huh. So that's a surpriser, but part of it when you're not watching it all the time. But that's easy enough. I can buzz down through that with a bandsaw and sand it. So we'll get those cleaned out there, no problem. Well, I didn't lose the Z-axis. I lost my bit, so I did break a bit on that when it hit that screw. And that was coming out of that chunk at the very front, and it threw it. And I saw that little piece of material, so that's what it was. So, darn. Alright, flip it up on this side. Turn on some juice so we can see what's going on. But anyway, I lost one of the screws in here, came loose, and then it hit my bit and it broke my bit. So that's why I didn't carve all that out. And when end mills are reasonable, but I still hate losing them. But I do break more 1/8 inch end mills than I've done of anything else. They don't like screws, so that's for sure. Kind of makes me wonder if I could go to using a piece of some part of it 1/8 inch end mill that broke. Probably could go to using some brass screws and try that. Alright. Okay. Well, it looks like I'll probably clean those up with a flush cut router, and that'll give me something to do. But you can see the bit broke to right here, and I can use a flush bit router and clean them up real quickly, all of them. Just cut them out with a bandsaw and then let her rotator chip, because I have smooth faces on the rest of these, so. And they'll cut out just fine, or it may just be easy to sand them. Alright, after knocking this piece over 3 or 4 times, this one's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 boards. 8 boards in it, making up a panel. And so we'll load it up and get her to go in here. So I could either clean them up with a little sanding, or I can run a flush router on it right there. They do have some little tabs right in here. That top part there. And clean that up. Same can be said true for these. I'm going to go ahead and cut these. Yeah, alright. Well, that took a little bit of work to get them cut out. Not much on the bandsaw real quick. And you know, it's basically kind of like a pattern bit. You rough it out, and I'll run that around a router and clean it up. Some of it may just need to be sanding. As much as there is there, I'll probably hit it with a router bit. And Well, I took that big old pile of them nasty parts that weren't cut out of the way and run the flush bit router on it, and on a router table, and cleaned them up, so I was able to salvage them all. But man, it sure makes a mess, and I don't really like working with my fingers a ½ inch away from the blade on them little pieces like I was. The whole time, this has been over here just cutting away, and you can see how things are doing over there. I think it's doing pretty good. But we'll find out here in a little bit. I'm going to have to get this thing back out and hit it again. So it's going down through there just cutting away on it. So it's about 96% done. And it's been running for 57 minutes, so it takes right about an hour. And away it goes. All right, the last batch for 15 lanterns. I think about everything came out good on this one, even with the pieces screwed down quite a bit. I did have one or maybe 1.5 that came up, but they look like they're all right. So I'm going to pull them out, clean up, and get all that. Well, there's 16 or 15 lanterns there, 15.5 anyway, and overall it came out pretty good. I've got some pieces here that I'm going to have to work on a little bit. These just need to have the holes tapped out all the way. They're paper thin, so these I need to hit with the router and clean up. And then this group is just some that I need to cut out on the bandsaw. So I've got quality control looking pretty good. They all need sanding, of course, and will be cleaned up pretty quickly. Those are the ones that just lightly sand and go. These just need a little more machining or drilling. Anyway, there you go. Okay, I just love jigs. I've got an assortment of 3 different jigs that I'm using. I'm taking these spindles right here, and first thing I'll do is I'll put this in the right hand here, slip it down in there, push my cam actions to pull it snug, and then so there it is down in there snug. I'll just click start. And then the next one, after it does that, I come over here to the bandsaw, turn it on, turn on the dust flexion for the shop vac, and all I'm doing here is putting a little bitty split curve. And the reason I do that is because when I load it up in this jig, this little cut right here, when it comes down, will cut out, and that'll keep it from splitting out at the bottom there. So I'm trying to figure out why my board is not plumb in there. See anything in the way? Let's try this direction here. Those jigs in there, we'll turn it on. As you can see, it runs down there, turn it around, and if you look at the tenon, it keeps the shoulders of the tenon from splitting out. If you don't do that, that thing will get all gnarly and you'll have a whole bunch of split out all over it. This jig is designed to take all the sawdust and shoot it away so it doesn't build up at the bottom, but it's there you go, and it makes a pretty clean cut. And of course it is cedar, so you know it will have its moments in time for sure. Anyway, all those pieces need is to be sanded, Got a bunch more over here to run the groove on it. On the first run on the CNC, it cuts the one groove, and then you got to bring it over here and jig it up one at a time. And this is the one that I could probably jig up more that could cut it at a time, but I'm able to do extra stuff while it's doing it, so I don't really mind coming over here and you know, working on it. Like this one here's got a big old nasty groove in it. Probably just put that over here to the side. Yeah, let's do it all the same thing. But you know, you get your coals and just click start. It takes off running. And then when I get a bunch of them set up, I'll come over here and fire this up and cut those again and do that. And then pretty soon I'll be done with them. And part of the machining process for building lantern kits. And I'd make lots of notes. Somebody saying, it's been a year since I did this. So it took me probably about 45 minutes to set these jigs back up and to get them where they're running right. And this is looks like Frankenstein, but I put in some little jigs in here for lining them up. And whenever you put these in, of course, you need to put something in there to keep it parallel, because if you just try and bolt it back up. Now I always use reference lines whenever I'm jigging something so that I can remember how to do it. But yeah, it's going together good. These grooves take about a minute a piece, and you know, of course, I'm fooling with it. It's a little bit longer than that, but it's not too bad. You just load the thing up, push it down in there, put your cams on there, press start, drop your hood, and go on to the next one. So this one here is a pretty rowdy piece. It'll probably go to the cold, but you know, it's funny. You can take something like this and clean it up, put a little sawdust in there and sand it off, and it's as good as new. People never know the difference, you know. And like for example, this right here, take a little super glue, apply that inside there, and put it back together. So this other side over here looks like, I'd say I've repaired this side over here, and but then I saw this over here too. So it may get cold, but you know, I'm cutting out 16 of these, and by the time you get done sanding, out of the 16 I'll probably get 14 that are good, and then I'll have one that's cold out. So that's nothing better to do than on a cold, wet, rainy day than to blow off some sawdust and all the projects you're working on, put a clear coat on them. Alright, blowing off the dust off of those things is a lot of fun. Throw them back out of the way. Blow the dust off of these things. Getting close to doing the product. I'm just using some Rust-Oleum crystal clear enamel. Seems to do it right. And with close tolerances that we got that, and just a hair didn't get to the other side. I've got a lot of those 64. I got 10, 12 that didn't quite go all the way through. So easy way of fixing that is just to simply come over here with a drill about size and just drill it real quick. So it takes a little bit of finishing to finish them up, and I'll do that for those other 12. Alright, it's time for the cedar to pop. Basically, I just run a little dowel, 3/16 dowel through there. Took those 60, I don't know how many of them, 16 times 4, 64 or so sets of these things, and put that clear coat on there, it just pops. And the reason I'm doing this is just to get more coverage, not waste quite so much lacquer. And boy, whenever you get that stuff, and I'll just turn it around, kind of like drying jerky. Everything goes right. Well, these sides don't have the color on them, but as soon as you hit it with a color, look how they jump. Nice little wet coat. I'm just using a crystal clear exterior interior enamel, and it's a light coat. Preserve that color. Thing about cedar, once you sanded it, you pretty much have to put your clear coat on it right away, otherwise it'll dull out and it won't be near as vibrantly seen. And the next one, the pops, ingrain, acting like a robot, going back and forth. And I've got an air sprayer, but I tell you what, you just can't hardly beat the convenience of a can. It just little ball bearing shaped can, you just can't hardly beat the convenience of it. When it's gone, it's gone. You don't have to clean anything up, throw it away. And this spray is really good. You don't have to worry about the viscosity of it. Thinning it. Convenience, yeah. You get about a third less of material using it. But hey, and then I'll pick it up, bring it over here and hang it behind my brand new 2 bar clamps. Just got them, and I just picked up with all these flat panels for cutting these out. Just picked up these at Lowe's. Had them for $4.98, almost $5 a piece, and they're Jorgensen, so they're a pretty good clamp. I could have probably got the same thing with Harbor Freight for a couple bucks, and they're good clamps too. What's nice about this is my flat panel glove. I saw this on YouTube. You put that in there, and you use your other one for keeping your panels glued up. This fits in there and draws it up tight, and you don't have to worry about this bottom clamp going in. I watched the guy do it, and I thought, there's the answer. So dude, good thinking. Your idea has made me happy today. Those are like $10 a piece, and the clamps are $15 for a couple of flat, $15 each for a flat panel clamp. Okay, for the bottom of the lantern, where the candle sits in there, I generally will try and do the bottom coat first, because when I turn them over, they sometimes get a little gooey, a little sticky. But this is the end of the can, and we're getting a little bit close to the end. We'll do the ends. Yeah. Okay. Now let's see if we can pick them up without dropping them. I think I'll let them set for a little bit. What do you say? Alright, let's jump over here. And as you can see, got some ventilation going on, got a fan running, got some air going on. Always a good idea to not breathe in all that stuff. So, and these are, again, put your bottoms in. And these are a little screw that makes it kind of handy for getting your spray on there. Since they're bottoms, I'm going to use the rest of this can up. Yep, that's about it. I'm going to get another can. Give her a good shaking. You know, I could take these and put them on a dowel and paint them up like that on the edges. I might do that on the edges. These faces, I think I'm just gonna shoot them. And nice thing about being a robot, if you line it all up and give it a good spray, you'll just have a lot less problem with coverage on it and stuff. And you can get in there and spray the edges. That's good. That's for sure. Put another layer in here. Nice thing about using dry wood, you don't have to worry about it. The stuff gluing. Looks like I missed one there, didn't I? Put one over here. Missed another one. Well, my quality control isn't very good today. You guys are probably getting dizzy watching me. Okay. All right. Okay, going to finish this. Put the base layer on these bottoms of these lanterns, and again, I tried to do the bottoms first, so that whenever they're laying around there, that if they do pick up something, then I'm leaving the tops of the best side up, so that they don't get boogered up. Anyway, the old news flyers. We throw them in. We don't read them, but they do deliver them every few days and once a week or whatever. And anyway, you can buy the brown paper rolls or save your newspapers. I've got some brown paper over there, and I've got some newspapers over here. Anyway, just if you're making lots of messes, and it's a good way to do it. All right, let's get that last base coat on these. Look, and then we'll start flipping them. Shaking the old paint up. Start here in the middle, and trying to keep my methods all the way across here. Nice wet coat. Starting and stopping on the outside. Thing you got to watch out about newspaper is it will get in your finish if you're not careful with it. So you definitely don't want it to touch. And again, I'm preserving that color because I just sanded these yesterday. So, good thing about doing that. because it locks that color in. So if you want to keep the color, then you need to try and seal it up. And that's one I'm having a little more space on it, so see if I can get that other edge done. Think about this enamel. If you put it on there nice and wet, let it running, and then it dries up a nice finish. And this is just some stuff I got at Lowe's. Hitting those circles a little bit. Alright, there were 16 lantern pieces that have been sanded yesterday and sprayed with clear coat, and they make a nice dark red color. And I've got, I think 15 and a half lanterns there. So I always keep my coals and throw them in there because you never know when they're going to get used for something. And, here's some coals from the last time where I had some remnants. And of course that one's the reason why it's cold, because of that. But you're making just a something, and somebody wants some personality, you can sure get it to go. Same with the walnut. Yeah, that's my box jigs. Just keep it all together in a jig box, and when it's time to do it again, I pull it all out of there and away we go. Alright, 16 lanterns used about not quite 2 cans of paint, and that was just the base coat on the bottoms and some of the sides, and we'll let that dry out here for a little bit, and then we'll come in and flip them and go to town on it. Gotta get my bales and my little dowels together, and then we'll have these kits completed. There she is. Alright. Getting down to these things, I've come up with this little jig to hold these. And the top of that plywood right there is where the knobs comes into play from on the tenon. So there's only one little spot right in there that they won't have any finish on that back side, but that way I can turn them all around and then probably flip them and hit them one time. But anyway, that's working good. This side right here, I need to cut that down because it's covering up the tenon right here. So I've got to move it down to where it's doesn't get the face. I don't care so much about the tenon because the tenon's down inside the board. So the tenons are down inside there, so they get a finish on them. But anyway, made 3 of those jigs and added it. Okay, I just turned this one around. I'm going to hit this. And every time you make these things, you get better at it. Okay. Alright, let's start putting the second coat on, so on the faces. And okay, I've turned them all over. Now we're looking at the faces, and I'm going to turn these over here, and we'll get this. Alright, got the other sides up, so I'm going to hit the top coats and give them a coat. Seal in that color. Okay, they've all got 2 coats on them, and the last coat's drying. Coming out pretty good. There's my blew up table. 1-inch screws work pretty good. They're kind of a safety hazard if you leave them out pointed towards you. And this isn't too good a deal, but just kind of have to not have anybody playing around with it. I don't like things hanging out wild. But anyway, we'll let that dry and come back to it a little bit. All right, this is the finished lantern, and it's went through many processes.